It's now my task to invite Professor Andrew Clarke to deliver the occasional address. Professor Andrew Clarke is the recently appointed head of the Victoria University School of Law. Prior to that appointment, he was acting director of the National Institute of Governance and co-director of the National Centre for Corporate Law and Policy Research at the School of Law at the University of Canberra. Andrew has broad managerial and administrative experience, having served as Deputy Head of the School of Law at the University of New England, and he is also a board member of the National Childcare Accreditation Council, a federal government body with a multi-million-dollar annual budget charged with overseeing the accreditation of childcare providers across Australia. He has also served as a member of the New England Advisory Health Board. Andrew's research focus is in the area of corporate governance, comparative corporate governance and corporate law. His interests include legal risk management and its intersection with negligence law, business law and management. Please welcome Professor Clarke.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chancellor. It gives me great pleasure to be invited today to give this address. Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, members of Council, distinguished guests, family members, friends and of course graduates. I'm very proud as Head of the Victoria Law School to celebrate your achievements today, and I know this is pride that is shared by all at VU, so well done. Graduation marks the end of one journey and the start of another. It's been a chapter of hard work in your lives, perseverance and focus, and your achievement is a cause, as we've heard today, for great celebration for you and for those people who've given you support and who have watched you rise to the challenges of the past few years. We live in interesting and challenging times, and that's no different certainly for Victoria Law School, which I'm proud to head up. For example, the law school is only some 8 years old, but I think we're doing some fantastic things and we're changing rapidly. We're very responsive to the marketplace. We've got a tremendous location in the middle of the city, and we're very keen and proud to be involved in the Making VU project, so that we're really looking forward to making our graduates even more work ready and career ready. So I think it's particularly exciting times. And I suppose one of the themes you'll all appreciate is the question of change, that change really is a constant, as a lot of the books will tell us. I certainly, in thinking about what to talk about today, reflect on some change. I did law back at the University of Western Australia in the early 1980s, and there's huge change from then to now. For example, Perth back then was a sleepy hollow. These days, of course, Perth is a boom town, and maybe a lot of you will go over there and find work as it happens. But I remember back in 1982 or thereabouts, the practitioners from the big firms in Perth came along to us and said, come and join our firm, you can do articles, which really in those days was glorified photocopying, and we'll pay you huge money. And I think the money was about $8,500. So it shows you that inflation certainly has caught up in some respects as well. Back then as well, of course, there was no internet, so studying was always pretty much paper-based. There was no choice, and I remember after a lecture, everyone would rush off to try and get the books. And so you'd say to someone who had a whole pile of books, what's happened to you? I've just been to company law. So it was really in the days before the internet when there was very little choice about how one studied. Law itself was very compartmentalised. Back in those days, it was largely judge-made law. Of course, we've had a huge change in the last 25 years where we've seen a massive amount of legislation and a much more complex society, which I think makes for more fascinating and more challenging times for all of us, whether we're going to be in professions or whatever we've graduated in. And I think there are some constants such as, for example, the notion of justice, fairness and people's rights being upheld. And I'd say one of the most important, if not the most important case in the last 25 years that I can reflect on would be the Mabo case in 1992, which really has refigured Australia and has fundamentally changed the notions of social justice and of nationhood. So I'm proud as a lawyer to say that I think law has been at the forefront of a lot of change and change for the good within this country, and I think the graduates today reflect that very much. In terms of my personal learning journey, I can remember back in the summer of 83-4, the hot summer of 83-4, I think my last exam was property law and conveyancing, and I said to myself, that's my last exam, I'm glad that's over. And I assured myself that would be it. But I'd have to say some 20 years later that I've got 3 masters and a doctorate, so I was definitely wrong on that afternoon. And my suggestion to most of you would be, I bet you go on and do more learning, because I think the notion these days of lifelong learning is a fascinating one. I think we all appreciate the fact that there is stuff to be learnt and we should always remain curious. So I'm sure, even though it may not be apparent to you today, that we'll see many people go on to masters, doctorates and all sorts of other qualifications based on your learning today. As far as career planning, I like to think it's a question of balancing the planning aspects, that is being deliberate about what you're doing, but also let some magic happen, let some happenstance happen, because I think oftentimes it'll be things that surprise you and directions that you take that you didn't expect to take. So I think allow for a bit of both. In terms of some simple advice based on my experience, I think really enjoy today. It's a fantastic achievement. I think plan ahead but not too much. I'd say read widely and keep learning and stay curious about the world. I think that's so important. In terms of mentors, I think it's always good to choose people who will stretch you and who can offer you fearless advice and who can basically give you a very honest opinion. So I think the notion of choosing mentors is a fascinating one, and I think these days is even more interesting than it used to be. So I think that's so important. Also, as from today, all of you become, from this moment on, VU alumni, and I particularly welcome you to that important asset to all universities, and it's fascinating and very interesting for this university as well. We in the law school, for example, are very keen to get to know our alumni as well as we can, and we welcome you back to teach for us, to offer guidance and mentoring. So we really do look forward to celebrating with you in the future. But today is your day and we celebrate with you, and I wanted to say congratulations from all of us. Well done. Thank you.